Hello and welcome to my review of Unfrosted, the new Netflix movie about the invention of the Pop-Tart. My name is Sean and let's get into it. This movie is really Seinfeld's brainchild. He co-wrote, directed, and stars in it. He noted in a few interviews that he thinks the Pop-Tart is one of the greatest inventions ever, which is obviously a joke. It sounds like something he'd rant about in the 30-second stand-up bits that play before the actual plot of a Seinfeld episode. And I love Seinfeld, the show that is. I haven't seen a lot of the classic sitcoms, but I would say Seinfeld's probably my favorite that I've seen. And so I was naturally curious to see what compelled a 70-year-old Jerry Seinfeld, who's never directed a feature-length film in his life, to make something like this. Having seen it, it kind of feels like a feature-length joke. That's to say, there was never really anything to this plot because it's derived from the fact that the director really likes Pop-Tarts. And they decided to spoof it where early on in the runtime, it's clear that this isn't actually what happened in real life. I doubt there's a story to the origin of the Pop-Tart because if there was something interesting, they should have told it in this movie, so I'm guessing there's not. So instead, they just parody the based on the true story formula, citing specific scenes even from something just like Oppenheimer, which I don't know if the scene that kind of parodies that was intentional. I have to think so, even though it's been a quick turnaround from the release of Oppenheimer last year to the release of this movie. And in all fairness, there could be something to the concept of spoofing the based on the true story corporate drama. After all, we did just come off a year with an abundance of how X product came to be with movies like Air, Blackberry, and Tetris. It kind of reminds me of when Weird, the Al Yankovic movie, came out, and the entire premise was just playing with the tropes of a biopic, and they just kind of made up the entire life story of Weird Al. I wasn't a huge fan of that movie, but it was a perfect opportunity for the biopic genre to be spoofed. Unfrosted, in a way, attempts the same idea, but comes off a little flatter. Spike Fierstein, SNL writer, co-wrote this with Seinfeld, so the SNL-type skits and jokes are sometimes pretty apparent in the scenes. It begs the question if sketch comedy writing, or even just sitcom writing, translates to the film format. I'm probably not the best person to ask because I don't think SNL is that funny, but if you did ask someone who enjoys SNL, they might agree that the jokes that work in a 7-minute skit don't necessarily work in the feature-length format. There's also a lot of jokes that, are clever but didn't actually make me laugh. Cereal puns that obviously some thought went into, but they're just not things that made me laugh out loud. I didn't laugh that much in this movie, and I think that's really the biggest problem, not to state the obvious, but this is a comedy that didn't make me laugh. And also, I know this isn't a movie that's in the theaters, it's on Netflix, which is the way I watched it, but I feel like if I did see this in the theater, the movie is filmed in a way that there's time to laugh at jokes that aren't funny, and so it just kind of makes for awkward pauses in the filming. Like there's a scene where Jim Gaffigan invites Amy Schumer to his office and he turns on music and starts doing the twist because he was told by Melissa McCarthy that appeals to women. And it's just kind of one of those awkward scenes that you're not laughing and you're just kind of watching Jim Gaffigan trying really hard to be funny while dancing, but it's not. The supporting cast is pretty well filled out with B-list comedians. I wouldn't be surprised if they sent an open invite to the set of Saturday Night Live for the array of side character roles they had to fill. Names like Mikey Day, Beck Bennett, Jack McBrayer, all people who show up in this movie, but also all actors who more people will know their faces than their name. The highlight of the movie for me was the appearance of an A-list comedian who it actually took me a minute to realize who it was that I was hearing because the makeup they put on him is so good. He's actually in the trailer, so some people might know he's in there, and once you hear his voice, you obviously know it's this guy. But his appearance, he's only in 2 scenes of the movie, but he by far was the best part of the movie. Also, Hugh Grant is in the movie, just kind of being weird, actually. I don't know. It's not that he has a big role or anything, but he just kind of hangs around. And the reason I found this funny was because a few months ago, there was a report that he really disliked being on the set of Wonka. He played the Oompa Loompa, and he said it was one of the least pleasurable experiences he's had. And then I just really found it funny that he's in this movie, which I never saw Wonka, but I heard it was okay. And then this is much worse. That, he takes these back-to-back projects, complains about one of them. Maybe it's not my place to question Hugh Grant and the roles he takes, but I did find it pretty funny. And to be honest, that's really all I have to say about Unfrosted. It's a comedy that didn't make me laugh. It's also one of those movies where the announcement of the premise felt like it got more attention than the debut. I remember last year when it was announced Seinfeld was at the helm of this thing, I saw talk all over social media about it. And now it feels like it's sort of released with a whimper. Even when I went on Netflix to watch it this morning, it wasn't on the first row of movies to choose from. So maybe it's just Netflix's notoriously bad ways of marketing their new releases, but it might also be a ploy to bury a rather lackluster comedy. Thanks for watching my review of Unfrosted. Please consider liking and subscribing, and I'll see you next time.